Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Iowa Coaches Network for Mathematics. And our host for this month is Dan Myers from Desmos. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I see we still have participants joining us, and that's fine. I'm April Forts, and I'm the State Supervisor of Mathematics at the Iowa Department of Education. Please respond in the chat how many attendees you have at your location. I want to thank you for hosting viewing rooms for today's webinar. By doing so, we were able to extend this opportunity statewide to include classroom teachers, universities, and pre-service teachers. So just let us know in the chat how many are in attendance so that we can have that information. I will be monitoring the Q&A and chat to assist in the facilitation of this webinar. We will address questions and answers as time permits, and I will follow up for those that we're unable to address. For those who tweet, you will find the handles and the hashtags on this slide, and I will also put those in the chat. And then I'll follow up with resources, how to connect to the recording, the G+ community, and other resources in the guidebook. I was first introduced to Desmos and Dan Meyer at a conference for the State Supervisors of Mathematics, and he captured my attention and left a lasting impression on me, as he was a dynamic and passionate mathematics education and leader. He shared with us the amazing technology advances that Desmos was making for the visually impaired. This touched my heart both personally and professionally, as my best friend's son is visually impaired, and I thought, wow, this is truly amazing. In Iowa, we currently have a high school student who's able to graph and calculus class thanks to the hard work of the Desmos team. Now that's access and equity. As we continue to grow and access to technology in classrooms, Desmos being free can be used with all students across Iowa. Desmos is much more than a graphing calculator, and teachers can use ready-made activities or build their own. They also offer a way to learn more about using it and instruction right on their site at desmos.com. Desmos supports instructional practices through engagement for students and the direct connection to the guiding principles and principles to action, such as teaching and learning, access and equity, and tools and technology. The Desmos team has become a true partner of the work we're doing in Iowa to support mathematics education. It is both my privilege and honor to introduce Dan Meyer, the inventor of the 3-act task. Dan, thank you again, and please take control of the screen.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here. Let me see what I can do. Grabbing the screen over here. Nice. Yeah. Awesome. So fun to be here with you folks at a distance, but really fun. This session is about the Desmos classroom, not the Desmos calculator. That's important. We're building something large here, and we're so excited to involve you folks and folks like you in that project. Here is the big question that motivates me, and I want it to be your question also. I see students outside of class with their devices, their phones, their tablets, their laptops, and they look a certain way. Picture that student in your head. They look engrossed, interested, they're locked in. Take those same devices, same phones, same tablets, same laptops, bring them into a school setting, into the math class, same device, and notice how the student looks now. Perhaps a bit blank, disinterested, apathetic. That blows my mind a little bit. And our goal here at Desmos, one of our goals, is to figure out that difference and to create math ed tech that engrosses students just as much inside of class as they are outside of class. And we'll get to some of the ways we do that. So this is about the Desmos classroom, not just the Desmos calculator, but that's one big part of it. I'm gonna break this talk up into these sections. We'll show you our three calculators that are all free, all based on the best web technology, all accessible to students who are blind and vision impaired. I'll show you our introductory geometry software, and then I'll share with you our activities, which is the work that where I spend most of my time. All of that ought to take about 30 minutes or so, and then time for Q&A after that. So use that chat feature. Questions that are Iowa specific, April will pick up. Questions that are about Desmos technology, about math, about California, I'm happy to pick those up also, okay? So let me just share with you, we have a link here, and I'll put this back up periodically for folks who show up later. But would you head to that link, bit.ly/desmos-ia 17, that is a link that will have lots of resources. I'll probably toss a recording of this session there after the fact if that all goes well. And that's where you can find my contact info, April's contact info. That's where it all happens. So I'm gonna head over there right now. Again, I'll put that up later. So here's that link also. So let me fit to screen. Fantastic. Yeah, there's our overview one more time, how this plays out. So to find our calculators, you just head to the main site at www.desmos.com. You can just do that with me or just follow along, no problem either way. I'm gonna head there right now. And what you'll find are—
They said they need permission to get to the Google link.
Oh, you don't say. Hang on. Yep, thank you. Much obliged. Public on the web, everyone can view. Thanks, team. Okay, should be good to go. Okay, so if you head to our webpage here, you'll see the calculators we have. Now, a lot of states and a growing number of states include our calculators on year-end, of course, assessments. And so that, I don't think that's the case yet in Iowa, perhaps someday. But those states will see 4 function and scientific calculators at middle grades, and then our graphing calculator at high school grades. So just take those in order here. I'll open all these up in tabs and just show you what we have here. 4 function calculator, just as you remember it, right? This right here, you can load it up on a mobile phone, works just as well as on the web. And there's one feature I want to show in particular that makes this an otherwise unremarkable 4 function calculator pretty remarkable. So I'm gonna take my birthday, the 9th of June. I'll press enter here. And now I'll type in 2 times ants plus 1. And you know how the answer key works. And here it's no different. This loads up whatever the previous answer was into that little box right there. I'm gonna press the enter key 10 times, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Here's my question for you, is if I go all the way up here and I change this 9 right here, change that 9, check it out, I deleted it, and now the calculator is confused. What should that answer be? If I change that from a 9 to a 10, what will the difference be with that final number down below? If I change that from a 9 and down here, the answer is 10,239. So we did 2 times the previous number plus 1, 2 times the previous number plus 1. So if I just add 1 to this right here, and I scroll all the way down, what will happen to that final number? I'm gonna give you like just 1 minute to think on that, and chat into the box, chat with your people who are around you, and your staff lounge or whatever. You know, get as specific as you can in 1 minute. May not need to be like exact answer, but what do you think will happen here? I'll watch the chat. Any thoughts from folks, or just have yourself a good conversation there? Doubles plus 1. So it's whatever that previous, the answer we had, double it plus 1. So instead of 10,000 something, it's gonna be 20,000 something plus 1. That's our first idea. Other ideas out there? Think on it, just chat about it, or chat something in if you have a strong sense of it. So I like here is that I'm able to have this conversation with a group of students. The best part about technology, one of the best parts about math ed tech is how it enables social interaction between students and the teacher. That's why students love their devices outside of class. One of many reasons is that it permits and enhances social connections with each other. They are sharing with each other. And so here we can share with each other our ideas in a classroom about this. And what's nice about digital technology like Desmos is that it's kind of a what if machine. Like what if this 10 was an 11 or a -1 or a 1, or what if it was a 0? What happened then? All these questions are possible to be asked. And then after a good period of discussion, Desmos can then show you what happened right here. We can talk about the difference. So I encourage you, as you're thinking about what the Desmos classroom is, which is basically like another word for a math ed tech rich classroom that's used well is like a place where hypotheses are generated and tested and discussed. Our scientific calculator works much as you'd expect. It's the same kind of functions are available with that answer key. Plus we have the ability to type in variables and define them. Scientific calculator functions like trig functions and stat functions and the like. Those are available. Those are, you can download on your devices, whatever you want to do with those. Our graphing calculator is our flagship, and there's lots that we can show you here. I won't cover but a small, slender fraction of it. I would encourage you to, at some point, head to learn.desmos.com is the place where you can get more information about any of this work. At this site, there's things to learn about our graphing, all of our calculators here, plus geometry, plus our classroom activities. You can learn about all this there. So our graphing calculator, where to begin? What's possible here? One thing I love is that it's just blazingly fast, hard to mess up, and easy to start. So like for instance, I can graph a line, y equals 2x minus 5, and it's graphing the entire time. I like that it's possible to graph lines in any format, including implicit, which is very hard with some other software. X plus y equals 2, done, graph, just like that. Dig that. I like that it really quickly enables me to click on the points of interest, like where the y-intercepts are. Down here is another one where the intersections of lines are. If you've tried to find these with other pieces of software or hardware, it's oftentimes very cumbersome. You got to choose like a point on the left side, point on the right side, and your best guess. And what my dream for a classroom is that students are spending much less time trying to manipulate technology and trying to perform mathematical operations, and much more time setting up those operations and interpreting the results of those operations. So what I mean by that is finding this intersection of 2.333, actually very easy for us to do. But what we can't do is decide based on a word problem that these were the right equations to set up. That's interesting work the student can do. Moreover, we don't know what 2.333 means in the context of that word problem and the situation that it came from. So ideally, this software, if used really well in a Desmos classroom, students are spending a lot of time taking the world and turning it into mathematics, and also taking mathematics and turning that back into the world, but much less time manipulating mathematics itself. That's part of our dream here. One thing we can do is we're trying to help students understand what the different parts of a graph mean. Is we can like change that 2x to a 3x, just like that, and then a 4x, and then 5x, and just like watch what's happening here. I could even turn this off right here, and again, turn this into a what-if machine. So I turn off that this line here, and now all the changes are obscured. And I could say like, so what's going to happen if I change this 6 to a -6? What will that look like, do you think, class? Class debates about it. We take some great ideas from every side, and then we say, here's what it is. Why is it that way? So again, turning this technology into a device that enables social connection and hypotheses and what if style questions. I gotta ask the class, give me a what if here. Like, what if we change that, the coefficient of y from a 1 to a 2? Like, what would that do? And again, then turn it on and we see what happens. We can turn the color here from red to blue to green to black. Like, I mean, just a wealth of colors that we offer you folks. We really spoil you here. And then we also have like dashed and dotted lines. So that's all possible. But some of you who are more veteran users know that changing this 1 to a 2 to a 3 to a 4 to a 5, we have another way that's a little more sophisticated for showing that kind of dynamic change. And that is with a slider, which is to say, change that 5 to a variable, change it to an M or an A or whatever you want. And then what we have now is it says, we have no idea what that M is. We don't know what that is. And do you want to add a slider to that? And we can say, sure. And now what I can do is I can run really quickly from all the values from -10 all the way to 10 and ask students, what will happen as I change this? And we debate about it and then show, like, here is what happens to M as M goes from negative to 0 and then to positive. And I can change the boundaries here. If -10 to 10 feels like too much range and it's changing so fast right there, maybe just change it so it's like from -4 to 4, and it changes by ones as an option. So now it goes -4, -3, -2, -1, 0. You have a little bit more of a staggered transition here, which enables different kinds of observations to be made. So there's that. And there's one other cool thing I want to share here. My favorite feature right now that I'm just loving thinking about is this. I'm going to turn this off right here. And As you might expect, the calculator is confused. It does not know what M is. I'm going to do this. Let me just turn this off. I'm going to say M equals, and then I'm going to say M equals -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, and ask you, what do you think it'll look like when I turn this equation back on here? Tell yourself in your brain, or tell the people around you, if you're in a room full of people, what's going to happen next. And ready, and here we go. Curious if that's what you thought would happen. Is we have basically one equation has created for us 5 lines by using a list like this right here. Another way to write this is -4 and then ... 0, same exact thing. And what that allows me to do is change that 0 to a 4, to a 5, to a 10, to a 100. Yep, to a 100 right there. And things get crazy fast, enabling us to really explore mathematical structures in a powerful way. Gosh, what else is fun? Have you seen that kind of line art where you create curved line, what appears to be a curve through just straight lines? I'm really fascinated by it. It looks a little bit like this, where you type in y equals, let me see if I can do this just from memory. I posted a blog post about this just now, see what I can do. 0 to 10, and y equals L over 10 minus L, x plus L. Yeah, check that out. This right here. There's some really fun applications of lists that enable students to create some really intricate patterns. If I change this to a 100, we get like even more interesting things going on. Negative, what happens? I'm just having a blast here. I'm just having a blast is all I'm doing. I can restrict the domain to just positive values on the X and just positive values on the Y. And then if I do take off the negative there, I'm just having fun with it is all I'm doing right now. We get this right here. I don't know. There's just lists just are so fun for creating some really interesting patterns and giving to students and let them try some just wild things. Yeah, you can see where this is going. So that's lists, that's lines, that's sliders. And if I was a teacher with just a single projector in the classroom, not devices for everybody, I would be asking loads of what if questions. I would be, whenever students are in a position to solve something, I would say, hold up, let's just like ask Desmos to solve this. You know how to do that. I've seen you do this. Let's not spend our time solving this operation. Let's just interpret the results of the operation and focus your class on that kind of non-routine work. Love that. Where else can we be here? Let me show you that our geometry is also available from, actually our geometry is not on the homepage, a bit of an open secret, and that is desmos.com/geometry. Is that in our handout here? It is not. I'm going to post it right here. There it is, desmos.com/geometry. And this is, if you're looking to explore geometric structures, there's no better place to do it here, especially to start with. This right here is less fully featured than a lot of the tools you might be accustomed to. But what this is again, very easy to start, very hard to mess up on your first attempt, and it attempts to enable just joyful creation. So like I can create a triangle really easily, and then I have like a triangle, no big deal, okay? Just like that. Really clean and simple. I'm gonna change the color and then I'm going to delete it, just like that. If I wanna create an equilateral triangle, just to share like, you folks know how to do that construction, but like I can create that really quickly by creating the segment right here, and then take that circle tool, create a circle right there and a circle right here the other way, and now I grab my segment tool again, and it knows it snaps to all the intersections really nicely. It just feels like joyful creation to me. I can select all these things and then hide them. And if you've used other tools, you can recognize like how simple and elegant that solution is right there. So I encourage you to jump in to our geometry tool and let us know how to make it awesome. It's very simple right now, and it is growing very quickly. So that's available. What else would be helpful here at this point? That's our tool set. That was just tools with a little bit of pedagogy sprinkled on top, your conversation with students in class. Our classroom activities are really where I have been at my most active at Desmos. A lot of activities that students do in math class involve them not creating much that they're proud of, like not expressing themselves mathematically or creatively. They're entering multiple choice questions, they're answering with numbers, and then they don't share that socially with each other and with the teacher. They share that with the computer, which then marks them right or wrong and tells them to try again. And just contrast that again, contrast that, would you, with student use of technology outside of class. Outside of class, they are creating all kinds of things. They're creating text messages, they're creating videos and photos and tweets and snaps and stories and whatever else, bing bongs. I don't know what kids do these days. I just maxed out my kid technology knowledge back there. But they create lots of things and they share those socially. As I mentioned before, they share those with the people around them via social networks, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever. They share them. And why do they share them? It's fun. It's fun for them, but they also learn from that. Like, they are, like your students, many of them have, through trial and error and lots of repetition and iteration, have perfected their selfie face. Like, they know the kind of face that is quote unquote them, that generates the most likes and faves and RTs and shares. That's learning of a certain sort. And we would all look at that and say, like, okay, great, good for them. That's not the kind of learning we need in math class. But when students share socially, that is, whatever they're sharing, they are learning about that, about each other and about themselves. So what we're trying to do is enable that. So let me see here. What kind of activity could we share with you? The activities are all kept at teacher.desmos.com. I'm going to head there right now. And there's lots of options. We have activity picks of the week. We have various bundles down below here that are largely at the middle school and high school level. We started, my team is 4 ex-classroom teachers, and we all taught middle school and high school. So we've started at 8th grade, and we are building down to 6th grade with our activities, and then we'll probably build up through 12th grade on the other side, and then tackle K-5 and tackle college level. It's our goal. So you might have to wait a little bit if you're on the primary level. There are some cool activities to use. Gosh, what would be interesting here? Transformation golf is our newest and hottest. I'm loving this thing. Students are creative. We do share their ideas through this. It'd be a nice one to offer, I think. So I'm going to click on that one. And here's a description of the activity. Down here offers like previews. So you can preview what's going to happen in the activity. And eventually, when you find an activity that looks promising, you do what's called, you create a class code. And this class code is a little kind of like gibberish set of characters. And that's what you give students. They type into a web page that gives them access to the activity, and it gives you a bucket full of activity, a bucket for all the data that they will offer you that you can use to help teach. So I'm going to click on that right here, and here is my dashboard. My dashboard includes screens where all of your work will go. Here's my summary screen. It currently has 0 students in it. I can see in the top left because you don't have that code yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pace you. I'm going to start the activity by saying you folks can only look at one screen. So I'm going to restrict you all to that one screen. Important teacher move here. And now I'll say, okay, kids, would you please head to this webpage, student.desmos.com, and type in that class code for RUCT. We do have a blacklist of a lot of common 4-letter words, but it's always a wise idea to preview your class code. And what I see right now is Mary Watson and Sydney and Emily are all coming in there. They're all looking at that first screen. Amanda is. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my anonymized mode. In the top right-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see the name of a mathematician. And that's so that we can have some really interesting, frank conversations about student work without freaking anybody out. I don't know you folks like I would know students that I taught in a class. And so you can see who you are in the top right-hand corner. Yep, got lots of folks coming in. Vivian Malone's coming in. Great. 24 folks. Annapelle Wheeler's in. Hypatia's in. Galileo, big deal. Hypatia, big deal. Great, so here's I'll leave this up for one more minute here. $40 folks all in the same activity. Not even going to stress this activity a bit. You can have huge classes in this. Doesn't matter. Lots of folks having a great time, learning lots, and your computer's not gonna freak out at all. Okay, let's see here. I'm gonna drop this down. So get that class code written down if you're not already in. 48 students currently in the activity, 49, let's get that to 50. Okay, so here's the deal. Again, as folks have already gathered, is you have a goal here. There is an L-shaped purple block and a gray-shaped image, basically the golf hole, to get that in. You got to avoid the obstacles, and you have very particular ways. Obviously right now you folks could, if that were a piece of paper, you could pick it up, lift it up, and put it onto the image there, but that's not one of the options you have available to you. What you can do though is you add a transformation. So for instance, I can add like a translation. You have three tools here: translations, rotations, and reflections. For like, I'll do a reflection right here. I can reflect, and this lets me drag my line of reflection. If I drag this right here like this, and like this right here, and I press go with it, there we are. Is this better or worse than it was before? You decide. I can click that and re-edit things. I can X that out and delete it. I can add a translation. If my translation, here, I'll do like a diagonal translation like this right here. If I do that, if I press play here, you'll notice that I smashed through the obstacle. Not a win. Not a win, not a good time, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and put you folks on that screen right there and see what you do. I'm curious, how few transformations would it take you? I haven't even succeeded yet, but how few would it take you to complete that one? Go ahead and give that a shot right there. I'll give you a couple to work on, just to preview how this works. Oops. I'm going to pause. This is just super interesting watching you folks work. I'm going to pause you in 30 seconds. I'll pause the action in 30 seconds. Ten seconds. So Your pause now. 9 times out of 10, what happens when the best test for us, like, is this activity any good? When we test these out with students is, does the class groan a bit when we pause the action? And 9 times out of 10, they do. If we don't warn them, the groan is even louder. So use with caution. Here's my summary screen right here. This is helpful for me to get a sense of what is difficult and what is less challenging about this activity. I'm noticing that for this first screen, the first challenge you folks are on, loads of folks have been successful. Some folks are still working on it. I got some folks who have an X there, which means that they were not successful with it, but decided to move on. So this person right here, play all transformations. Yep, right there. Yep, didn't make it. But what's really fascinating for me is when I click into each screen and look at your work, and here's what I notice is that like the folks that were successful here, they largely use two translations. I'm seeing this all over the place, which begs a few questions for me. One, I love seeing that one person did this with 2 reflections. That's awfully unusual. So what I'll do is I'm going to pose the question to the folks that did 2 translations here. What would it look like to solve that same challenge with 2 reflections? Really creative work there from Joseph Bioval, I think is how we say that. And then if you were the person that did 2 reflections or something else, what I'm going to ask you is, I don't see anybody that has finished this with 1 translation. So what I'm curious about is, if it's impossible to do this in 1 translation, how would you prove that to me? So what I want to emphasize to you folks as teachers now is that what I'm trying to do is generate a creative and social digital classroom. That's the Desmos classroom. So you folks I'm emphasizing here that there were different ways to create a correct solution here. It's not that, like, you type the one right number into the blank and that was correct, or you chose the one right multiple choice response and that was correct or incorrect. That is uncreative or creative in a very narrow way. What I'm trying to do is encourage you folks to draw the best of your creativity here. And then this dashboard allows me to create social interactions in the class. Those social interactions are very hard to do in an online setting like this where I can't even see you. But try to imagine me, like, going off anonymized mode, saying, like, whoever is math is power managed to do this in 2 translations. Matt Miller did it in 2 reflections. Nice job, is power. Nice job, Matt. Now, can you both do it the way the other person did it? And suddenly my class is becoming, through the power of digital technology, more creative and more social. I'm looking at this other one here. The challenge number 2, this one right here. And one thing I think is really spectacular when I look at the teacher screen is seeing how many different ways folks did this. So I see 2 reflections, I see 2 rotations, I see a lot of that, but I also see, and this is super curious to me, some folks manage to do it in 1 rotation. This is transformation golf, so we award more points, better score, to folks who take fewer tries, fewer transformations, fewer strokes, in order to accomplish the challenge. So far I'm seeing, like, 1 rotation. How is that possible? I can click here and I could show you what that transformation was, but I'd rather at the end of this leave that to you. I'll unpause everything and let you try that out. We have other questions that are settle a dispute. This is multiple choice, but the point of the multiple choice is that we generate a classroom conversation about this. We see where the controversy is. That most folks say that Anya is correct. It can be solved with a single rotation, but there is some controversy around Braden. Like, this person here thinks that this right here would be a reflection. That would be a reflection that would work. Do you agree or disagree? What would you say to Felix right now to help him see what you're seeing about this problem? Again, the Desmos Classroom is a creative and social place. You could just give this class code to your students and then go to your desk and read a newspaper, and that would be like an okay time. But ideally, the education technology you use makes you a more powerful teacher, and your classes more social and creative spaces. This was 1 activity. We got hundreds and more on the way. That's at teacher.desmos.com. They run from K to 12, again, stronger at 6 to 9 right now. If you're at K5, I highly recommend, or anywhere, I highly recommend you look at a polygraph activity for a uniquely social and creative time in your classes. This concludes my agenda for our time here, which involved the calculators, geometry, activities, and Q&A. At the end of this, I really encourage you to head over to learn.desmos.com to learn more about any of this. This bit.ly/Desmos Hunt. These are our little scavenger hunt challenges around the calculator. So you can start at a beginner level if that's you, and just ask yourself, can I plot a point in each quadrant and turn on their labels and see a solution if that's challenging for you? And then it goes all the way to advanced, where we're doing some pretty crazy stuff to do some pretty crazy cool things. So let me invite you folks to chat amongst yourselves, or jot a question down to yourself, or ideally head to the chat and ask me or April questions. Like, for instance, do either of these calculators support CAS? Our calculators do not support computer algebra at this time. At one point we had them so they were solving equations live as you type them in, but our work with various state level organizations, they want their students to not have access to a dynamic solver like that. And so we're creating a unified calculator that everyone can use on tests, off of tests, so that feature is not available right now. We'll see what happens in the future. Heading over to the chat room, eight chat messages. Let's see, can we save and print out from the geometry page? You can definitely save from the geometry page. Fair question if you are able to print yet. Again, that's a technology that's in its infancy. Yeah, we have the save button up here in the top left, no print button yet, but you can screenshot that pretty easily. Is there a way for teachers to rate the activities on teacher.desmos.com? No, but I'm writing that down as we're rethinking our teacher pages and what would be most helpful for the community, having teacher ratings or comments. I love, I'm a terrible in the kitchen, hopeless, but I do love those on a recipe. If I'm trying it, there's folks down at the bottom saying like, I did this, but really like that obscure spicy ingredient was totally unnecessary, or I swapped it out with this and it worked out well, or here's how I handled the last 10 minutes of this recipe. I'd love to see that for activities also. That seems like pretty helpful. So rating and commenting for activities sounds right. Let's see, others. Any other questions? Oh, wait. Yeah, groups of people there. Chat amongst yourselves. See what questions come out. Type those into the box.
Dan, we have one. Matt posed, will you be adding a trace or locus feature to the geometry?
Yes, I'm pretty confident that's going to happen. On our list, our feature request list, that's in, I think, the top 5. So we take that one really seriously. And now it is in the top 4 with that feature request. So thanks.
Another question, how about iterations?
How about iterations? I need to know a little bit more about that. When you say iterations.
To make fractals.
To make fractals, yeah, we don't have recursion support in the graphing calculator at the moment. I'll add a +1 to that. Thank you. Others.
Okay, so we have another question. For geometry, is there a side length and angle measurement feature?
Yes to side length and no to angle measurement. Angle measurement is, I believe, top 2 priority for geometry right now. So that's coming along real quick. Angle measure, but we do have side lengths. You just click on the, let's see if I can recall how this happens. So you just like select your segment right there, and then over in the wrench, we can show the grid, we can give the unit scale, and show label will give us the measurement of that right there, that segment. I can change that scale to make it 10, just like that. Yeah, anyway. Other folks? The question that I wish folks would ask more often is how is all of this free? This is like a lot of very expensive people's times have gone into all of this. If I'm a classroom teacher, I'm wondering like, how is this free? If I build a bunch of activities, you can build your own activities in Desmos. That's possible. If I build my classroom around this, like will this become paid at some point? All my work is monetized. Will you throw ads at my students? You know, like those are questions that as teachers who hold a responsibility for your students, like please ask as often as you can if folks promising free, because some of them we're seeing lately, they go unfree all of a sudden, and things are very disruptive and painful for students. So I just want to say that we make our money not through paying teachers or students, but rather we sell to publishers and people who make tests. They want to have a really nice graphing calculator that blind and vision impaired students can use without a problem. They come to us and we sell to them. Or if you use, for instance, CPM is a textbook series. They wanted some fancy new digital activities, and so they came to us and we sell some custom activities to them. CPM teachers can access those at teacher.desmos.com/CPM. All that's an effort at making this free for anybody, teachers, students, parents. So please ask that of lots of folks. I'm encouraging that because I think we're on our way to profitability without needing to charge you folks anything. I think the same ought to be true for any company. Yeah, and if you want to help us, like, tell folks in your spheres of influence, like, this calculator that I have on the software is bogus. Like, talk to Desmos, get their calculator in here ASAP. Or if you know state level folks who are looking for a calculator for their state and of course test, call that out. Whatever you want to do here to help us out. Other questions?
Dan, we have one. Can it do area and volume?
Area and volume So I'm gonna say no on that. Like, so if I were to create a triangle here, we cannot currently in the geometry tool do area, though that fits in the measurement category of highly requested features that we'll be adding shortly. And volume, we don't do 3D in either the geometry tool or the graphing calculator. 3D area.
Could you show I don't know if you can do this, but can you show them the builder, like if they wanted to make their own activity?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so this is going to be, you can, at the learn.desmos.com page, it says learn how to create. So if you wanted to learn more about this, you can head there, create your own activity. But so what I would do probably if I were in your shoes is I would pick an activity of ours to use. I would not try to build one myself. These activities take us, like Transformation Golf took us maybe 3 months of 5 people's time to build. Like, you just can't build that and do your job. Let us build that for you. But you can create your own, like, exit ticket. So for instance, I would go to custom and then new activity, this tiny little link right there. And I can title this like, for instance, transformations exit ticket. And here's what I have is I have like a PowerPointy style interface where I can create new screens. My exit ticket will have 3 questions on it. Let's say define rotation, or define reflection. And I'll add a note where I'll say something like, hey students, define a reflection in your own words. And I hit preview here, and all I see is like that sentence and no place for students to enter that. So I got to add an input. I hit input, and now this input could be a math input where students will type like equations and they look all pretty, or more appropriately here, a text input. And in our efforts to create a social classroom, when students type their definition here, they hit submit to class and they will see 3 other students' responses. We find that very helpful for allowing students to learn from and with each other. If you want to turn that off for, say, the sake of an assessment, you can turn that off. And now it just says submit to teacher, not submit to class. So define reflection in your own words. I could ask them on the next screen here to sketch, and I could say, let's see, sketch this right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask them to sketch reflection. So the sketch tool, if I hit preview, they draw all over this. I'm going to tell them in the note here, sketch the reflection across the line of the given shape. And I'll go into here and I'll create an editable graph. And this is moving fast, but this is just stuff that you can do and learn how to do it later. And I'll create a triangle by way of a table, 2, 1, 2, 5, 6, and then let's see, 5, 3, and then back to 2, 1, and I'll connect them. And so now I have a triangle in the graphing calculator. I'm going to put down the line x equals 6, and I'm going to turn the grid off and the axes off. And now what I have is this. Sketch the reflection across the line of the given shape. And so then they can, like, I just want to see, like, what do they know about this? Is it, and I don't really love that triangle in hindsight. It's a little bit too isosceles-y, if that word works for you folks, if that makes sense. Maybe not. So I'm going to change 5, 3 to 5, 1. Yeah, like that. Maybe make this harder with y equals x minus 5. Feeling better about that. Zoom in a bit, maybe. Zoom out a bit, maybe. Anyway, so you can create these little items, and this is, this is taking me a very little time, longer at first, but you get better at this. Maybe a multiple choice, like for instance, confidence. How confident are you that you know how to play a transformation golf level? And then down here, if I press preview, it's got that text there and no multiple choice here. I can say then right here, very confident, confident, sort of confident, not confident, very unconfident, just like that, and hit preview now, and we've got all of these right here. By default, we include this explain your answer because, again, we want a creative and social class. You explain yourself and submit to class. If you don't want that, we'll allow you, of course. So you hit simple here, and that takes away the option to explain. Just gives you data, and then we'll summarize that data for you. Multi-select allows you to ask a check all of these that apply kind of question. You can also select the right answer. The right answer is very confident, and so you can then, on the dashboard that you get, see student responses. When I'm ready here, I press next, I press publish, and now what you'll see, it looks very similar to the transformation golf activity. It's just your activity, and you create a class code, just like I did with transformation golf. You click on that, you get a dashboard, just like transformation golf. You get a class code, just like transformation golf. The only difference is that all the data that comes in will belong to you and your students, and it'll be there forever. You can use it for remediation, that kind of thing, which reminds me, I want to turn transformation golf back on, unpace, and unpause. If you want to play around with that more, you're welcome to. Any other questions? Thanks, April, for bringing that up.
Sure. Is there a place to suggest activities? Like if somebody has an activity, like you said, let you all build it. Is there a place to do that?
Yeah, the place to suggest activities is you open up your email client and you type in dan@desmos.com and you say, what's up, Dan? I got a great idea. And we talk.
Nice. And then I know we get this question a lot, is what the Desmos activities, they're not, they're out there, but we don't know what standards some of them align to. And that's a resource. We have some information on that. So we'll put that in the guidebook and we'll share that out. So not all of the activities, but that there have been educators across the country who's done that work. And so we're gonna use their work to have the standards on some of those activities for us.
Super. I'm gonna go ahead and give April edit access on this document. You can, wherever is helpful, April, obviously. But if you want to add that here, you can. So anyway.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll just, don't see anything else coming into the chat. And I think we had quite a few participants, even though what the number was, because people have rooms, and I know I saw 9 and 15 and large numbers. So Dan, I just want to thank you on behalf of Iowa. Thank you so much for your time. We know you all are super busy over at Desmos, because I think your team is how many, Dan?
17, I think, as of last week. Yep. Working hard, having fun. Thank you,
so,
folks.
Yes, thank you so much. And if I get any more questions, I will shoot them your way. And Dan is amazing. I shoot him questions and he gets back to me relatively quickly. So if you have those questions and concerns, let us know. And you'll get an email following up, and we'll share these resources.
Awesome. Thanks,
I see
everybody.
no other questions at this time, Dan. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye now.